morning, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of the Coffee Chat Show. We actually I did actually create an event this time, so we should have notifications go out. So we'll wait a couple minutes to see, let everybody know that we're on, and uh, and then we'll dig in. I suggest you grab a notebook if you're just jumping on and you're hearing this, which I don't think anybody is yet, but if you're watching the replay, grab a notebook because we're going to take you through a listing process called Be Do Have. And we're going to talk about labels and how you're labeling yourself. Um, so you might want to grab a piece of paper or a notebook or go grab a quick cup of coffee or whatever. I wish we could change. They had some cool branding for Valentine's Day, but now we're just blue.
Blue.
Yeah, to find a better color. All right, well, I guess we'll just dig in because most people watch this after the fact, so we won't wait for too many of you to jump on live. So I was just talking to, hey, good morning. There's Carrie Ann. I've been reading Jamie's book, Worthy, which if you're on social media at all, it's all over the place. And I think I saw a video of her yesterday. It's in the fourth printing already because the stores are just running out of it as fast as they can get it in there. And one of the things that she's talking about is how do you label yourself? And this is like, if you guys have been, whoever's watching, if you've been watching for forever, and by the way, this is our 10th year. We haven't made a really big deal about that yet, but because it's officially in the summer. This is the 10th year of the Coffee Chat Show.
That's crazy.
Wow, that's a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. So anyway, if you've been watching and following along, you know that we talked about a year ago about Kendra Hall's, a year or two ago about Kendra Hall's book about what your internal stories are and how to replace them and find yourself a new story. And so Jamie Kern Lima talks about this in regards to labels. And I thought that was interesting. And it actually gave me pause, and I actually started to jot some stuff down on it. Oh, good. So Carrie Ann got the book. Carrie, did you get, Red Betty, did you get to the part about the labels yet? It's a little about halfway through. So grab a piece of paper or a notebook and write down what comes to, like, how have you been labeling yourself? What are the labels that you've been assigning to yourself as a human being? And then this is probably an exercise to do later because you're probably not going to get all this in the few little bit of time that we're with you this morning. How are you labeling yourself? And like, make a list, just what comes to mind, like, that's like, what would you call yourself? How do you think of yourself? And I want you to tell the truth because I don't want you to write down what you would think that someone else would want to hear or what you would tell some, like, really, what's in your head about you? Really, what's in there? Like, are you unworthy, or you're not good enough, or you can't do it, or because I'm guessing that how you're labeling yourself, if you're telling yourself the truth, is not your vision for how you want to label yourself.
Right.
This is like the old stories. Because if you're in your life right now, parked wherever you're parked, and you want to be somewhere other than where you are, I'm going to tell you a secret. Are you ready? The only thing that's in your way of getting there is you.
Yep.
That's it. Just you. The good news is you can change you. You can't change anything else in your life. You can change you. That's the secret of all of this. It's like, what's in your way? You. Who's stopping you? You.
You.
Who's keeping you from the life you want to have? You. Who
Mhm.
can you change? You.
Mhm.
This is good news. How do you do it? Use tools, get support, do the work. We'll give you the tools. We can support you here on the show. You can also hire me as a coach. You can hire Tracy and Karen as coaches, and we can support you that way, or you can get free support right here on the show. You have to do the work. That's the part nobody wants to do. Or I should say, everybody wants to do a little bit of work. So I'm parked here. I want to go there. Who's in my way? Me. Okay, what's in the way? Oh, I have a label about myself that's shitty. It doesn't work. I have an old story about myself. I have some habits that are bad or not, going to get me where I want to go. Okay, cool. All right, let me do a little bit of work. Let me write some things down. Let me go a week with a new habit. Okay, now we're like in week 2 or 3. Nothing's happening. It didn't even work. Forget this. I'm not, whatever. She says whatever. That's most people, I promise you. Most people, change doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to change those labels about yourself in an instant. You're going to have to keep looking at it and keep working with it and keep applying the tools and do it consistently. And then it will start to turn, and it will turn really slow. And then it will turn a little bit faster. And then you'll catch momentum. And then guess what happens? Most people will stop. You'll catch momentum. You'll be like, this is working. And Tracy, then what happens with most
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, they're just like, it's too
They
hard or
they let up, right? No, they
yeah,
think, oh, I fixed it.
right. Right.
Oh,
Right.
I changed it.
Right.
I took 55 friggin' years of crap and I applied myself for 3 weeks and
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I've changed. My life has changed. Guess
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. And then
No.
the cycle, right?
Listen, talk to the girl who's 55 right here that's been doing this stuff for 43 years, and I'm in the middle of a pivot right now. And yesterday I was crying in my living room because I'm scared and I'm not sure how it's all going to work. All the same. And you know what got me out of it? I went, I've seen you before. I saw you before when I filed bankruptcy 20 something years ago. I
Mhm.
saw you before when I pivoted away from Dreams Time 8 years ago. I've seen you before. Okay, you're not so bad. I've got this. My own history, right? And then I came upon some things I wrote and some statements so I have all this rich history now from 43 years. My own history is coaching me now, which is cool, right? So I didn't even have to call Tracy while I was crying because I solved it myself. Because I was like, oh, I've seen this before. Now, what brought me that richness is all the work that I've done. And what I want you to hear is that I have to do that work again. I can do it different. It might not be so beleaguering this time because I've done it so many times, and probably things will manifest faster because I have a lot of strength behind me for all the work that I've done as a foundation. However, I still have to do the work. I cannot just sit on the sofa and watch Hallmark and hope it all turns out. Not going to happen. Got to do something. Got to take some action. Got to get my head in the right place. Can't be watching Agatha Raisin like I have been for the last 3 days because that's not helping me. Okay. So just just telling the truth. Like when that's my comfort is Agatha Raisin's detective stories on whatever it's on Prime. And I can't watch the other detective shows anymore. I love detective shows. My Nana and I, like, she raised me on Nancy Drew, Spencer for Hire, all that stuff. I know that what I focus on, I will create. I know I should not be putting my attention there. Agatha Raisin's like the most what because it's like comedy and detective, and it's a super watered down version. but it's still really probably not the best thing. And it's probably been like a week of, grabbing an episode here and there at night because it's my comfort. It's like hamburgers and French fries. I'm hiding because I'm transitioning and it feels icky. And so I'm just going to solve it with some stupid whatever. So I'm not afraid to say that I'm just like everyone else on here. It's just, the only difference between me and you guys is I've done it longer. I already walked through hell like probably 5 times now, and I brought buckets out the other side. And now I'm back here again, and I'm coming through. And this time I'm coming through with more than buckets. So for those of you that are struggling with something right now, hear me when I say 2 things. 1, everything always works out for you. Stay there. Stay there. Everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Make it a mantra. Everything always works out for me. Every day in every way, things are getting better and better. And then get in action. Do something. Do something. Make a bed, clean a toilet, clean a cabinet, make a phone call, bring flowers to somebody. Do something. Stay in action. Tracy, say something.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, while you were just talking just then, I wrote down the force of nature occurs without our help. So I always like to think about the movement in my life as like the farmer. Okay, so he has to plan, where's the garden going to go? Then he has to prepare the soil. You don't just put the seed in the ground, you prepare the soil. Okay, then you put the seed in the ground. And then what do? You water it and you water it and then you water it and you water it. Like it's just a continuous thing. Okay, so you're getting it ready, you're getting it ready. And you have to remove outside circumstances that might have an effect on the plant once it's above the ground. Okay, you got to get rid of the bugs. You got to prepare for the sun if it's going to scorch, or if you're in a place where the rainfall is crazy, you have to prepare. I mean, you just have to be able to think about what's outside that might hinder what you have growing. Okay. And then there's harvest. Okay. You don't plant the seed today and have harvest tomorrow. So I love to think about that because it's just occurring. When you're a seed, you're in the dark, you're in the cold, you're down in the ground. You're like, what is this? What is happening? You don't realize that you're going to be.
That's where I am right now.
You're going to feed 20 people if you just hang in there, because you're going to have so many tomatoes that the owner's not going to know what to do with you. So you have to be where you are to get cracked open to be what you're supposed to be. But if you don't let yourself sit in the ground and enjoy where you are and think about what's coming and have your eye on the goal, let's just say again, those 20 families that you're going to feed, then it becomes more able to handle the dark and the wet and the muck and the yuck because there's something's coming. You don't know sometimes in our lives, or we don't know what's coming. But if we continue to do every day what we need to do to prepare what we want over there in a rightful mind, you don't want to be fantasy thoughts, but like a real plan and emotion and movement. It'll come. You just might not be a year. It might be 5.
Yeah. And it happens every time. Like every time what Tracy's saying, this is where the cycle conversation of my mother's comes in handy, because she has a theory of a cycle of 9. And for me, it seems to be more like 7, 8, like about that. But nevertheless, there is a cycle, right? Because 8 years ago, I was right here sitting in this same thing, except this time it's elevated a bit. The circumstances of it are better than they were 8 years ago. However, it's still the same. I don't know a lot of what I don't know a lot right now. I know some things, but I don't know a lot about how it's all gonna come together. This is where do have. So at the beginning, we told you to grab a notebook. But before I get into that, I'm going to just ask Karen if she has anything she wants to say about all of what we've said so far.
Yeah. I was playing in my head this morning I have this exam I'm gonna take in May in this big ass book, and I am like, I haven't even opened it. I ordered it a week ago.
Mm.
I was so excited. I signed up for the exam. This morning I wake up, I'm like, okay, this weekend I gotta do it. And the first thing that came into my head is I am too dumb and I will not pass this
Oh,
exam and I
right.
should not do it.
Right.
And that is the truth. That is the God
Mm.
honest truth.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
I am scared to open this book
Yeah.
because I know once I open it, okay, I actually got to put in the work and study it
Yeah.
and not just sign up for an exam.
Right.
And so that's where I'm at today. And that is my God honest truth.
Yep.
But I know it. But now I know this.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. When you say it out loud, you're like, that's not true. I can easily pass this exam.
Yes.
A lot of people have passed this
Yes.
exam.
So good. That's good.
And the
That's
good news
yeah.
is you can always take it again. So,
You
you
can
know,
always
my
take it
mother
again.
used to say, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And okay, and then she'd say, will you die? And I would say no. And then she said, so what are you worried about? Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was her, you know, I mean, that was her go-to thing with me. Like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And she'd say, and will you die? Well, no, of course not. Okay. So then it can be, then anything's possible.
That's
As
good.
long
Take
as
it
you're
again.
alive and as long as you're breathing, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Period. And I mean, if you're a God person, even after you're dead, anything's possible, by the way. So, you know, just saying.
So good.
So, given that we're in Lent and coming upon the Easter season where clearly anything was possible, Lazarus, anything's possible.
Yes.
But we try to stay away from heavy God stuff. Even though Tracy and I are heavy God girls, we
Huge.
try to stay away from that on the show, not because we don't want to share it with you, but because we don't want to polarize anyone. We want the show to be for everybody. Karen's Jewish, I'm Catholic, Tracy's Christian. You know, we want people to believe whatever works for them, and we definitely encourage you to believe in something bigger than yourself.
Mhm,
However you do that, whatever it is.
mhm.
My mother was eclectic in her faith, so I've studied Buddhism and Kabbalistic principles and Tibetan, all kinds of. She had me, Tracy knows, all over the board growing up. So I have an understanding of all kinds of different things, and I appreciate that. And for me, with my faith, I take what works for me and I leave the rest.
Mhm, mhm.
We have some Jewish heritage in our family, so I take some of that and I take some of, the heavy Christianity stuff and I take some of the Catholicism, but I don't take all of every. I
Mhm,
don't
mhm,
go all in on. I'm a big Blessed Mother advocate. She's my girl, so
mhm.
that's kind of what I centralize there. And I'm big on angels and saints and all that, just because I'm Catholic, and that's kind of what we do. You
Yeah.
come into my house, I have like angel statues and saints. I'm like an old Italian woman, except I'm not that old yet. So anyhow, point being is we don't go heavy on that conversation in the show because we don't want to polarize everyone. We want to respect everyone and where they're at in their journey for faith or a higher understanding. And we really do want to encourage you, though, to think about that there is something higher, whether you want to call it the universe or God or the Buddha or
Right. Whatever your divine.
whatever the
Whatever
divine thing is for you.
Yeah.
We just want you to have that. We really want to encourage you to find that for yourself, because that's the thing that will help you through when you're kind of stuck in the muck, like
Yes.
Tracy was talking about.
Yes. Yes.
So let's just quickly give you an assignment with the Be Do Have, because it's a good one. And in a lot of this conversation now, I really want to be teaching you prosperity principles, and we want to try to hit on something of value to you in regards to a tool every week, so that you can just continue your own conversations. So Be Do Have, it's a listing process. So you're going to get pieces of paper, and on one piece of paper, you're going to write be in big letters, and the next one do, and the next one have. Okay. So be goes along with this label conversation and your new labels. So what do you want to be? That's the question that you're answering there. What do you want to be? And that is attitudinal, as well as it could be career oriented. So for Karen, she's taking an exam. So maybe as the result of the exam, she wants to be XYZ certified, and then she wants to be a blah, blah, blah in some kind of an organization because that's the, or she wants to be a consultant. So it could be that. She also wants to be on purpose right now. She wants to be someone that's studious while she gets through her material. She wants to be energetic. Karen, I'm just using you as an example because it's a good one. She wants to be energetic. For myself, I want to be open to what's next. I want to be okay with not knowing some of those pieces right now. I want to very much be centered in my faith that God is the source of my supply and he provides his own amazing channels of supply to me. However he decides to do that, that's my own kind of personal thing, right?
I have a question. So what if you want to be a runner, but then you say, I want to be the winner of the marathon?
You could say something like, I want to win races.
Okay.
Or, because in all this, we're always wanting to put on the bottom of all of our list or keep this in mind, this or something better, right? This allows for you to dream and create, and then also be open to whatever's the highest and best good for you, because certainly we don't always know what's highest and best for us, right? The universe, God, the Buddha, whatever you want to call it, the bigger picture, those folks, they know what's highest and best. And our higher being also knows what's highest and best. And we're not always accessing our higher self, believe it or not. So lots of times we're operating on a much lower level and we're not fully connecting with our higher self, which is why we have stories and labels that aren't great about ourselves, because most of the time we're reacting from the past. And our higher being is responding and acting from the future possibility. And we don't usually play in that arena unless we're really working toward that and striving toward it. So your B is like who and how you want to be. I want to be generous. I want to be forgiving, whatever. I want to be energetic. Do, what do you need to do? What do you need to do to kind of forward the action on your B? So what do you need to do? What are the actions that you need to do to take how you want to be and put some shoes on it? Right? If Karen wants to be a certified blah, 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 then her do has to have a component of actual studying at this particular time because she wants to pass that test. And she will pass that test, by the way. And then your have is, what do you want to have from all that, right? So I want to be, we'll use me as an example also. I want to be solid in my faith that God is the source of my supply. I want to be open to however I can serve humanity best in my next iteration. I want to do whatever the actions are to make that happen. And so I can come up with some actions, right? Like I need to meet people, I need to have conversations, I need to be checking my email, whatever the do's are. Even though I don't totally know the answer to the B right now, I know I'm not a lummox. I know actions that I know how to be in action every day, even if it means, reading, or I've got tons of John Maxwell trainings I can do, and, all this kind of stuff, right? I know that I need to be in motion to be doing things. Part of what I'm doing right now too is cleaning out my mother's house. So I have plenty, I'm not lacking for things to do. And then what I want to have is, a new iteration of my company that serves humanity in the best possible way for me. And I want to step out of certain work and into certain work. And so that's kind of like how my thing sets up right now. I don't know all the components. I don't have all the answers. I have some clarity. Every day I get a little bit more. I don't have it all. I'm calling upon friends of mine to come and be with me at my house to help me figure it out. Tracy's going to come in a month or so. Kirsten's coming this week.
Mhm.
I have people that I've known for a long, long time that can help me think about this and think it through. So that's kind of how Be Do Have sets up. And that's like, you should, I don't like to shit on people. It'd be good if you visited those lists monthly, right? Because it's going to change. Because what you want to be today or what you want to have today might not be what you want to have 2 weeks from now, especially if you're in this seed phase like I am and like Tracy was talking about. When you're sitting in there, things change, right? And I have a bad habit of like, oh, and then I start putting a lot of assets behind an idea. And then a lot of money ends up going out the window because after I sit a while longer, it's like, yeah, that's not it.
Well,
So
also,
I am
Noelle, I'm
trying
sorry.
to learn. No, I was just going to say I'm trying to learn to not do that.
And what you said about the change, right? Some people live a little bit small. They don't want to push the envelope too hard, and then they realize, wow, that was easy. So then they change and they go, well, then I want to lose 20 pounds instead of I lost 5. Like that. Okay, wow, I can lose 100. Instead of just saying I want to lose 100, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I can, because and then they get in their head, and so yeah, you change as you progress.
This kind of backs right back into All It Takes Is a Goal, that book that we were going over by John Acuff back a few months ago, because he suggests the 30, 60, 90 day, start working with those goals. So this is a great way to let's just take that 30-day window and make your list. Be Do Have 30 days. What does that look like? And then, because this is the 2nd of March, so it's a great time for the month of March. What does it look like? Be Do Have.
I love that.
And then you can visit that on a monthly basis. And then as you start to expand your vision for yourself, as Tracy's saying, you might make a 60-day Be Do Have. Then you might make a 90-day Be Do Have. And these are all working components of your blueprint for your life, right? This is all part of we're always talking about your overall blueprint for your life, your personal development plan. And that is a living, breathing document. It's going to change. Sometimes it's going to change daily. It's definitely going to change weekly and monthly.
Yeah.
So working with that is what's going to empower you for your future. That's what's going to give you the inner strength that you require to reach the future that you want to reach. Is actively looking I suggest you review those lists every day and that you base them on a 30-day window right now, because every day you want to be in action for the future that you want. You want to be doing something that's getting you there.
I love that.
And it's probably not watching Agatha Raisin, just FYI.
Yep.
Shut up, Suits girl. Who watched 9 seasons of Suits?
I know.
It's bingeable.
Okay, well, you can see how I could get there with Agatha Raisin.
We should pay each other if we start watching a series.
Don't try to be holier than thou. I know that's your number.
And I think like if it was at the movies, I would never go to the movies for all those shows. Like, so it's almost like I have to change the mindset of, no, it's too easy on the computer, right? It's too easy to turn it on right in front of me. No, make it about.
No, and it's too easy to do that. And by the way, we're not saying that watching something once in a while, like, yes, you definitely need to shut off, have downtime, whatever. But I promise you that I've been using this as a coping mechanism right now.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not making myself wrong for it either, by the way. I'm just noticing. And honestly, when I watch that stuff, I notice that it's harder to get myself out of the chatter. That's why it's detrimental to me. because it's harder for me to. I have laser like manifestation and focus. I am a master manifester. So
Yes.
me, I have to be really careful what I pay attention to.
Yes.
And it makes it really hard for me. That's why I have to live such a disciplined life. And sometimes it pisses me off. And sometimes I just want to do what I want. And
Yeah.
so hence Agatha Raisin for the last several days. And I promise you that I see that it's harder for me too. When that thought comes about like, oh my God, it's not gonna what I'm like, oh, whereas if I was reading a prosperity book or even an upbeat novel that was, that's why I watch stupid Hallmark romance movies, because it's always a happy ending. It's always works out. It always is upbeat. So although it's mental vomit in a way, it's positive. It always works out for them.
Yeah.
It always works out for them, whether he's a farmer or he's a stockbroker or whatever the hell it is.
They're always
works
together.
out. The farm always gets saved. The business is always saved. The
They fall in love.
family is always reunited.
They always
There's
fall in love.
it's always a happy ending.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that my third marriage is that happy ending. And I swear to God, it's from all the years that I've been watching Hallmark. I promise you, because I lived alone for all of Antonio's whole life, 19 years.
Yeah.
And, when I decided to get married again, like literally we are like, we're not like mushy and like hokey like that, but we're like, we don't fight. We don't argue. Well, like everything is perfect. We have like the best relationship, and we have a lot of space for each other also.
Yeah.
And we've also been through so much crap in our individual lifetimes that we both came into this marriage like, you know what, this is just going to be easy, because we're so over all the dysfunctional relationship BS. Like, we're not having it. And we don't. And it's cool. And I promise you, it's from watching years of Hallmark movies. So those things do, what you pay attention to matters is my point in all that. And it's not about making yourself wrong if you're paying attention to something that might not be the best thing to pay attention to. It's about catching yourself and noticing like, oh, maybe I'm using this as a coping mechanism because I feel really uncomfortable in my life right now. Okay, cool. Then you get to choose. Then I can choose, oh, I'm going to watch more, or I'm going to go read a prosperity book.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with scrolling social media, right? It's a coping mechanism. It's a disconnect. It's a time waster, but you get to choose. That's my husband saying Hallmark is his friend. He's watching this show from upstairs. He watches them with me, not all the time, but
yeah, it's a lifesaver for him though, because it helps you be in a state.
Right. No, because it helps me. It honest to God helps me. It's like the people that read the Harlequin romance novels just to like pass the time or cope or whatever, and I'm not, believe me, I watch plenty of master classes and all this other stuff, but it's good you can't be on all the time. You have to disconnect. And so when you are disconnecting, make sure it's something that has an outcome that you would want to have happen. That's kind of how to filter out the shows that you watch and the things that you read and all that. It's like, is it telling a story that you want to create more of? Okay, cool. If it isn't, then really think about if you want to spend your time that way or not.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. All right. He says if they drank real coffee, that's what makes him he gets so mad because he says all their cups are filled with nothing. And he gets so mad.
It's ridiculous.
He's like, there's not coffee in those cups. They're empty.
They are.
And the snow. He can't stand the fake snow.
Yep.
It is, it's funny. Tracy's watched some with him. She knows his commentary. It's pretty amusing. All right, so we're out. Be do have. I suggest that you try this process. It's kind of a fun process, and we will talk about a graduated component of those lists next week called manifestation, elimination, and gratitude lists. We're going through now some basic prosperity tools for you to just help you get to where you want to be in your life. All right. We'll see you next week.